Well, I don't know what's happened to Travis. He appears to have forgotten, or maybe something's come up that he's unable to even let me know that he can't make it. So I might hang around for 5 or 10 minutes. We'll see how we go. My wife and I have a busy day today, so I can't spend too long. 11 o'clock, we need to get started on other things. So we'll see what happens if Travis turns up in the next, well, I don't know, I can even give him 20 minutes. But then we'll have a very short time that'll be next to pointless. But I'm going to start talking about issues that are of concern to me. And in my catch-ups with Travis, the thing that we have been focusing on, like Travis's interest is politics. As far as I know, Travis isn't a Christian. My interest is primarily, first of all, theology, the proper understanding of God, but I love politics as well. Not the evil of politics, but Jesus Christ is King of all. And I believe Christians should be involved in politics. We should be seeking to redeem this world for Jesus Christ. The post-millennials go a little bit too far on that. The Reconstructionists and the people that think that we can make this world Christian, we won't. Very few will find the narrow way, and we cannot impose Christianity on others. They must trust Christ for themselves. But we can have a voice in our world for the truth. Yeah, g'day, Bobby. Sorry, Travis hasn't joined me. I don't know what's happened. Jamie just popped in to say that he's not going to be joining. He's over at Rethinking Hell. I don't know why hell needs to be rethought. Let's just go with what Bible says. It seems to me that's an attempt at heresy. But anyway, politics is extremely important, and Christians can have a role here. And one of the heroes in this regard is William Wilberforce, inspired partly, at least, by John Newton's experiences with slavery. William Wilberforce was inspired. He had already become a politician before he was a Christian. And when he became a Christian, he thought of leaving politics and becoming a preacher, but he was encouraged, no, stay there, and maybe you can work for God in politics. And he did. He was the main driving force between Britain eventually outlawing slavery. One of the first nations on the face of the earth that's ever outlawed slavery. And America has followed that example. It took them a little bit longer. They had a lot of slave-owning states in the South, and they had to negotiate their way through that minefield a little more carefully. But that was evangelical Christians fighting against slavery. What's the big evil of our day? Well, not slavery, at least in the Western world. Slavery isn't the big evil that we're fighting against. It doesn't exist in the Western world. It's outlawed, at least in that form. There's a much bigger evil that is far greater than slavery ever was, and that's abortion. And if you say, oh no, Christians shouldn't get involved in politics, you're saying that it's okay that babies are being murdered, and you're not going to try and do anything to stop it. That's evil. That is not Christian. No. Christians should be involved in politics. And that's just one of hundreds of examples I could give, but it's one that seems to me to be the most obvious. If you're not involved in politics trying to stop evil, then you're not being a Christian. Now, you don't have to be a Christian to fight against evil in that way. In the political world, it doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or not, but Christianity forms the basis for understanding what the truth is. Either God exists or he doesn't. If God doesn't exist, then we just make it all up. And it doesn't matter. Evil is just opinion. But if God does exist, then what God says is the basis for reality. It's the basis for morality, and we should follow him. Now, some people, they decide that abortion's wrong, and they don't really believe in God, but their God doesn't approve of abortion either. But other people believe in a God, and they don't really care about the biblical God, and their God approves of abortion. Who is their God? Their God is themselves. Right? We need to be looking to follow the true God. But in politics, when it comes to deciding what's right and wrong, it doesn't, so long as you're fighting against abortion, then you're on the right side of the fight. It doesn't matter why when it comes to politics. I mean, it's going to matter for your eternal soul, and it matters for other reasons. Right, so politics. This week, or we had an election a couple of weeks ago here in the state that I live. My state's called Western Australia, but I originally come from Queensland, and I'll just show you evidence of that. That's the shirt that I'm wearing this morning. That is a football team based in North Queensland. Queensland is another state of Australia, and that's my football team. That's where I come from, North Queensland, and it's the right sort of football. There's at least 4 types of football in Australia. There's what? Hang on a second. I got Travis. Yep. Well, there we go. That's Travis. He just woke up. He'll be with us shortly. Just wet his head and get his hair in order, sort of like I have. Sort of. It still looks like. Hang on. Where is it? Oh, I hate this mirror. Wrong hand. That hand. Oh, this is so awkward trying to do things in mirror. Well, it's not mirror, really. It's the opposite of a mirror. It's the wrong way around to how a mirror would show it. Okay, back to footy. Right, no, it's actually worse than that, Bobby. There's soccer and there's football, but even then, right, we have rugby league, we have rugby union, and most people don't know the difference between league and union. They are not the same sport. They're as different as union and league are from American football. NFL is different again, and NFL here in Australia, but it's very, very small. You can pretty much ignore it. But then there's also Aussie rules, right? Which is completely different again. It's very, very different from all the others, and it's based on Gaelic football, which sort of came out of soccer, but sort of. They picked the soccer ball up like the rugby league people did and started, holding it in their hands and kicking it. And then AFL sort of merged the soccer ball. So Gaelic football is with a soccer ball or a ball like a soccer ball, whereas Australian rules is with a ball like a rugby league or an NFL ball. And the posts are different. There's a few other different rules. But yeah, 4 types of football, 4 basic types of football in Australia that are all quite popular. And then, of course, you've got NFL, which is very, very small. I'm not even sure that it's played at any major level. But my sport is rugby league. Rugby union is mostly rich people. The private schools, what we call private schools here in Australia, the schools you have to pay for. Whereas rugby league's a lot more popular in the government schools and in the lower classes, most people. Soccer is a lot more popular amongst the ethnic people, so Eastern Europeans, some Brits and Poms, but a lot of British people love union and rugby league as well. And rugby league and rugby union are most popular in Queensland and New South Wales, where all the rest of the other states prefer Australian Aussie rules, Australian rules or Aussie rules football. So the most popular football in Australia is AFL, or Aussie Rules football, what I call aerial ping pong, in a deprecating way. But yeah, I'm originally from Queensland, and recently, maybe I can wait till Travis gets on to talk about this. Recently, we had an election here in WA, and we have just elected to our upper house a candidate who is living in the United States. And he was elected from my electorate to the Daylight Saving Party, and my electorate has always voted against daylight saving. So much for democracy. But and people are going to blame the system. No. The system is never at fault. It's always the voters that are at fault. There are probably ways in which the system can be improved, but I don't see this system can be improved. The only suggestions that they're making for how to improve the system is to make the system worse. The problem is not the system. The problem is the voters. The problem is that people don't care anymore. They don't care about who they're voting for. They don't see where preferences are going. They just vote for the party they like, and then they trust the party that they like. And most of the time, they don't even have reasons for why they're voting for the party that, oh, that's who my family votes for. This person votes for them and I trust them. They don't examine it for themselves to see whether they're the right party. And the main reason for this is the church is asleep. The church is not standing up for righteousness. That's the point that I'm getting back to. Now, why did I mention that I'm from Queensland? Because people attack me for it. Oh, why's a Queenslander running in WA? Aren't you out of your... Well, we just elected someone who's living in the United States. So it doesn't matter that I'm a Queenslander. I care about righteousness. I care about what's right. Anyway, hopefully Travis will be with us shortly. We can go over that one again. I'd love to hear Travis's thoughts on it. But Travis wants to bring up some other issues. So Travis lives in Perth, which is the capital of the state that I live in. I'm 3,000 kilometers away from that, 2,000 miles away, for Americans and other people who haven't yet caught up to the system that the whole world is using. And the system that makes more sense, by the way, is much easier to learn. It subdivides by 10 or multiplies by 10 at every level. Why you would use a system that has varying measurements, I do not understand. But yeah, I mean, that's human beings, really. I could say it's Americans, but it's not. It's human beings. We're stupid. Yeah, so 3,000 kilometers away is my state capital. So you can imagine how much Perth cares about where I live. Not at all. But they don't really care about the people in Perth or the people anywhere, really. And that's one of the things that Travis is good at commenting on, because he keeps up with what's going on. I don't try to keep up with it too much because it just discourages me too much. It really annoys and angers me how messed up the system is. And it's more important for me to keep my eyes on Jesus. So hopefully Travis will be here soon. And we can get started. But yeah, I've been interested in politics all my life. When I was a teenager, I started getting involved in some minor parties who were trying to change the system, because they didn't believe that the major parties were representing the interests of the common people. And that's 35 years ago now, and nothing's changed. Things have actually gotten worse. And the biggest problem, the reason why things aren't getting better, is because the gospel's not getting preached. The churches aren't doing their job. Resolution of problems is not going to start in politics. I don't know Travis's view on that. This is my channel. That's my view. And we'll see if Travis has an opinion on that, if he wants to comment on that or whatever. I'm not sure what Travis's position is on many issues, but that's not our primary goal. Our primary goal is to talk about politics and what's happening in Western Australia, and expose the fascist depredations that is occurring all over our world. How we are moving more and more away from respect for freedom. The American Constitution, or I'm going to check something, just a second. Yep, American Constitution. All men are created equal and endowed by their creator we hold these truths to be self-evident or obvious. Self-evident doesn't mean, let me see if I can do it here. We hold these truths to be self-evident. The American Constitution is so much better than any other political document in all of human history. The American Constitution. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, or we'd say inalienable today, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Notice that they don't say that happiness is a right, an unalienable right. And by unalienable, they mean should never be removed, should not be separated. Alien means separate or strange. Endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Not that these rights are always observed, but what the American founding fathers were doing was acknowledging that these things are rights and that the government that they would set up would protect those rights. Life, that's where it all starts. If you don't have the right to life, you have no rights at all. If the right to life can be taken off you, every right can be taken off you. All of the rest of the rights that they give in the Bill of Rights stem from having a right to life. So the right to free speech doesn't exist if you don't have life. The right to bear arms doesn't exist if you don't have life. And all of those rights, the right to freedom of assembly, the right to fair trial, and if you don't have life. And that's why fighting against abortion is so critical, because it's acknowledging that those are human beings whose life is being taken from them unjustly. The same thing happened with slavery, and the same thing happened to the Jews under Nazi Germany. They were considered not human, along with many other groups, by the way. The Slavic peoples, that's the Russian and the Slovakia, those, I think the Croatian, I can't remember. I think the Croatians were, that's why, personhood. Yeah, they just imagined that they weren't persons. Roe versus Wade must be overturned. If it isn't, God will judge America. America is finished unless Roe versus Wade gets overturned. Then I don't see that it will. It won't be under Biden. I mean, we have a new Supreme Court, apparently, that's supposed to be full of conservatives. But are they really? I don't think they actually are. I think 2 of them are conservatives. I think 3 are suspect. And I think 4 definitely aren't. Well, 2 are suspect and 1 is highly suspect, swings with the wind, and frequently makes non-conservative, very anti-conservative decisions when he has the deciding vote. And then there's another 4 who definitely aren't conservatives. Or no, 3. Actually, I'm going to have to check my numbers on that. It could be 2 and 1. Hey, Matt. G'day. Hey, if anyone wants to, I'm waiting for Travis to join. He is supposed to be joining. If anyone wants to join and chat about politics, please hop on. I've gone off on my own direction. not necessarily what Travis is going to be talking about when he gets on. Yeah, I'm talking about the foundation for politics as I see it is biblical Christianity. It's the foundation for morals, and politics should be about defending what's right from what's wrong and judging right and wrong according to the according to the right standard, which is God's standard. It's not up to us to determine what right and wrong is on our own, off our own bat. Good vibes. You make me want to start singing Beach Boys. If you don't mind waiting till then, I definitely will. I'm working another 2 hours. Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry, Matt, I won't be available in 2 hours. My wife and I are quite busy today. I've only got another half an hour if Travis doesn't turn up soon. Now, Travis has said that he's out of bed, and he was just putting some water on his hair. Should church and state be separate? Well, it depends what you mean by that, Jamie. Hey, why don't you hop on the stream? Let's talk this out. So church and state should be separate? Yes, in the sense that the state should not establish a state church. 1, 2, it shouldn't tell the church what to do. Right? That's state. What Canada is doing to James Coates's church, Grace Life Church in Alberta, is it? I can't remember where it is. Edmonton, Alberta, is fascist, demonic nonsense. That is not the job of the government. It is not their job to tell the church what to do. By the same token, the church should not rule over the state. So no denomination, no group that calls itself the church should rule the state. We don't live in a theocracy, and we shouldn't. Because who decides who the God is? Right? But that doesn't mean that the church doesn't have a role to play in politics. Now, this is the problem. People go, oh, separation of church and state. The church should shut up and keep out of politics. No. That's not what separation of church and state means. It doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge the existence of God. God isn't the church. God exists, and God is the foundation for all proper understanding of politics. And they want to do the exact opposite of what separation of church and state means. They want the state to run the church, which is exactly what the separation of church and state is supposed to be about. Keeping the state, the state has no business telling the church what to do. None. It's none of their business. They have no right whatsoever. That's what separation of church and state means. That's the primary meaning of separation. And I'm an Australian. I mean, we don't even have that in our constitution. But we're importing the wrong idea of separation of church and state from America. Of course we are. The liberals or leftists or whoever they are have the same father in America as they, of course they're going to bring it to Australia because there's the God of this world that brings these lies everywhere. Yeah, that's the point that I was making, Matt, about the Constitution, the Declaration. California just lost. Yeah, well, for now. But how much longer? While Biden is president and while we have a weak SCOTUS that, is supposed to be conservative but isn't acting like a conservative court, they're just a slower form of liberalism. America's going to continue to slide into apostasy and lose. You're going to lose all of your rights. And when they come and try and take the guns off you, civil war will start, but who will win? Well, I don't think anyone will win. America will lose. America will be busy destroying itself while the rest of the world does whatever it wants. It will tear America to pieces because it's over. Yeah, of course, he's going to increase the number of justices because he wants it to be fully leftist, not weak conservative. which, you know, it was supposed to be a conservative court. It hasn't been conservative, except in the weak sense of they move slowly. But it's still towards liberalism. They're just going more slowly than it was, you know, with Ruth Bader Ginsburg and so forth. But we're not heading towards conservatism. We're just more slowly going towards leftism. And I'm saying these things as an Australian. I think I understand the American system better than most of them, not necessarily better than all of you on the chat, but better than many Americans. I know I haven't memorized the Declaration of Independence, but I have studied the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. I understand, I like the separation of powers that you have between the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, which we don't have in our system. In our system, the executive is just a rubber stamp for the legislature. And so the legislature is a de facto executive. And so we only have a two, separation of powers is only into two, because there is no real executive. The executive and legislature are one, whereas you have them separated, at least in theory. In practice, everything is being ruined. And in practice, you have a massive problem, just like we do. So no one wants to jump on. Bummer. I've got to keep coming up with stuff. 26 minutes I've been going, filling in time. Come on, give me something else to talk about. Keep making comments. Chat. Type faster. Right to bear arms. See, we don't have that either. We don't have a right to bear arms in Australia or England. There is a constitutional basis for... I was listening to a Catholic the other day. The guest is getting ready. I'll say it the nicest possible way I can think of. Jacob Rees-Mogg, if you want to know what's happening in conservatism around the world, you need to know what's happening in Britain. You need to know what's happening in Australia. You need to know what's happening in New Zealand. You need to know what's happening in Canada, you Americans, and you need to know what's happening in America, wherever you are as well. There's Trav.
Hey.
He's wandering out to his back patio and that little couch.
Oh, sorry, I just had to make a coffee, and someone's decided to join us.
So you wet your hair and brushed it, and then stuck a cap on it.
Well, it didn't do what it was meant to do. Anyway, it's the lazy man's way of doing his hair.
I hope you don't mind me stirring now. But if you look at my videos, when I've got on camera, I very rarely have brushed hair. I have bed hair.
You know, because I'm so handsome and all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're a supermodel like I am.
It's hard being this good looking.
Yeah. How you doing? Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble.
You need a bath.
When you're handsome.
No, not you, Graham.
Sorry.
No, we just got back from Geraldton, and I think my dog's been rolling in dog poo or something. He stinks really bad. So I just had a whiff of him. He's an outdoor dog, so. Anyway,
Patrick Alexander says, I remember when Australia gave up their guns. I remember seeing gigantic piles of guns in Australia being destroyed. Yes, and I think back on that, and I think, I wish I had have been there and been able to take some of them.
I heard there was a whole heap of guns that weren't actually banned being destroyed out at the same time as well.
Yeah.
You are going to pull the laptop off the table. So sit, please. Sit. Stay. Sit.
That's how fascists work. And I don't know if those people were deliberately being fascists or they were just morons, quislings. Who knows? It's hard to tell.
John Howard all the way. So wasn't he the one that set the presidents and asked everyone to hand in their guns?
Yeah, he was
even the ones that weren't meant to.
led the charge, but did he do it because he's a moron and ignorant, or did he do it because he was deliberately trying to remove freedoms from Australia?
I think it's more of a long history of Labor doing knee-jerk policies that don't really serve any purpose other than to win votes. Have a look what happened with the export ban. I think that was the Rudd government.
So the fake Conservatives just follow.
Pretty much. So unfortunately,
they don't stop and think about it. But there's also I hate conspiracy theories, but they're not necessarily always conspiracy theories. This is the problem. There seems to me to be a lot of evidence that thing was all set up. That the shooting in Tasmania, there's something really seriously wrong about it, and they should have had a royal commission on it, and that would clear it up then.
I find it strange that 26 shot dead. There's reports he was like 50 kilometers away or something.
And they were all headshots. Yeah.
So
and he wasn't that good a shot.
Just the fact that it doesn't make sense should have been enough for him to do a further investigation. I just find it strange, whether it's conspiracy theory or not, or just really dodgy police work.
But that's why they didn't do an investigation.
Yeah. So my faith in the government is extremely
And if that's
low.
not enough to get me shut down, then nothing is.
Well, it's not getting shut down. So for those who watch my channel, Joel Jamal has just been given a month. I can't remember his Facebook or YouTube have just shut him down for a month. So yeah, it's all these people who dare speak out keep getting shut down. So
yep.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad. Like
fascism is on the rise. Fascist book.
I wonder if they have nightmares about people telling the truth.
Yeah, of course they do.
Like,
well, the demons do.
I have nightmares about falling off roofs, getting hit by cars and things like that. But they must there's someone standing in the street saying, "Oh, the sky is blue," which today is actually quite a nice color of blue. And they're like, "Ah, the truth, run for your lives."
What's the weather like down there?
For someone, my place
is it cold?
It's not bad. It's not too bad. It's about a lazy 18, 19 out at the moment. That's guess. I'm not the Bureau of Meteorology. It's not too bad. Bit of a wind. So the wind is coming all the way down here. So for those who don't know, I actually grew up in a town called Geraldton, which is about 4 hours north of Perth. Yes. And they had a cyclone. Was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday night. So about 48 hours ago.
Yeah.
And so this, again, failure from the government all the way. So they knew this cyclone was coming for a long time. It was actually two small cyclones and it spun into one when it made landfall out Kalbarri, which is about 40 minutes north of Geraldton. It crossed as a Category 3. I'm hearing reports from friends and family that live in Kalbarri that about 90% of the houses in Kalbarri all have damage, missing roofs, fences down, the usual. The city of Geraldton, a lot of sheds got destroyed, but nowhere near as level of destruction. But what happened is kudos to Western Power. That's another one I enjoy calling out for their failures is Western Power. There was a report of a electrocution to a house that had lost its roof. For some reason, the safety features didn't work. So instead of going, we'll send a crew out during a red alert. So for what people don't understand, a red alert is you cannot leave your house. Like if they catch you out of your house, they'll arrest you on the spot. It's really, really dangerous. 150 plus kilometre-an-hour winds. So I'll let you change that into miles per hour because I've never been good at that sort of stuff. But it's insanely fast. And so
about 100.
Yeah, about 100 miles. So they turned around and just said, right, we're shutting down the grid. And so kudos to Western Power for having the courage to actually do something that extreme to preserve life. So well done on that side of things. But my disappointment so with the WA state election, we've got a new emergency service minister. So credit where credit due. Fran Logan actually did a pretty good job as an emergency minister, emergency management minister. So I don't know if he retired, but he's no longer the minister. So a guy called Reece Whitby took over. He ran in the seat of Belle Davis. This is my total speculations. I have a feeling that he saw it as a bit of a retirement job that you do before you retire. He thought it'd be a pretty cruisy portfolio. You just pretty much copy and paste all the other emergency warnings and put them into place. But with this cyclone, the moment they knew that was going to hit Geraldton, I think it's been something like 60 plus years since the last cyclone got close to Geraldton. And so no one knew what to actually do. I'm lucky my family, we're all mine site workers. We go up north, we deal with cyclones every season. We know what to do, you know. And so there was a lot of people out there who had no idea.
Can I just pause on that for a second? Because cyclones hit pretty much all across the north of Australia. Now,
every year.
If I remember correctly, Americans don't call it cyclones. I can't remember what they call it, but just for your benefit, hurricanes. Is hurricanes the same thing as cyclones? Because I can't remember. Really. There's typhoons again, you know, and I can't remember what's what.
So if you take the most probably well-known hurricane is Hurricane Katrina, the one that took out America and all that sort of stuff. So that was huge. That was over thousands and thousands of kilometers. But the winds only got to about 100, 110 kilometers an hour, and that was arguably one of the biggest that they've ever had in history. See, to us, to get the same wind is, I think it's Category 2 cyclone up here. It's 120 kilometers an hour plus. Once you start getting to the 150, 160 kilometers an hour, it's Category 3. Cyclone Tracy, the one that wiped out Darwin, was a Category 5. That's where you're starting to get pushing into the 200, like gusts of 200 kilometers an hour. So the American typhoons, they're huge. They cover thousands and thousands of kilometers, where the Australian ones are a lot more compact and a lot more devastating. The winds is just insane. So a lot of the damage from Hurricane Katrina was because of the vast volume of water that was dumped on the
it was America. A lot of storm surging and stuff. So the winds weren't big, but because it was covering such a large amount of area, it was pushing water up onto the land.
I would still say the winds were big. It's just they weren't as destructive. With the Australian cyclones,
they weren't the same.
Extreme.
They weren't the same speed. Like so, they were lower speed, but over a much larger area. So still extremely destructive in a different way. I grew up in North Queensland, so we used to experience cyclones just about every year as well. They'd hit Cairns, they'd hit Townsville, they'd hit Mackay, and we're talking about towns that are hundreds of kilometres apart. Same thing here in Western Australia. It can go. It goes below halfway down from all across the north of Australia, and then halfway down, more than halfway down.
They still cover 1,000 kilometers. Like this
hurricanes can go.
The radius of this cyclone still covered over 1,000 kilometers. So they're not small storms. And the other problem is a lot of people who haven't experienced cyclones, they don't understand when you're in the middle of the cyclone, there's no wind. So a lot of them think, red alert, eyes here. The storm's passed. No worries. Let's go out and check the damage. Then all of a sudden they get hit by the 200 kilometer hour winds again.
And then the wind comes from the opposite. The wind comes from the opposite direction.
Total swing around. So another thing to help prevent houses from having their roofs blown off and all that sort of stuff. So let's say the wind's coming in from the east. It's not but east, but let's pretend that's east. You open the door on the west side. So what happens is the wind hits the building, but the air can still get out. So there's no pressure, internal pressure.
Otherwise, it builds up pressure and blows the roof off. So if you let the pressure out, you let the pressure out on the opposite side.
So we get taught this every induction we do up in Port Hedland. Every time there's... so this is one thing I have to say the people in the Kimberleys, which is the north part of WA, do really, really well. Every 20, 30 minutes or so, there's announcements on the radio saying, right, so we're in category yellow. That means tie down your trampolines, tie down any loose furniture outside, go do your shopping, make sure you get inside, get everyone stop, bring your kids home from school, that sort of stuff. I'm
sorry to interrupt you again, but I just want people to have a context. So you're over 3,000 kilometers away from me. That's over 2,000 miles away from me. In a straight line as well as by road, even though the road goes sort of twist. Well, actually, it might be a bit less than 3,000 kilometers. It might be closer to 2,000 miles. But there's 1,000 kilometers between me on the eastern side of northern WA. 1,000 kilometers, not in a straight line. I have to go down 400 kilometers and then go across 600 kilometers to get to Broome, which is on the west coast, although the west coast is a bit curved. I mean, you can look this up on a map. So I'm in Kununurra, then there's Broome, and then from Broome to Perth is pretty much 2,000 kilometers by land if you follow down the coastal road. So you're talking about at least 2,000 kilometers of territory, like 1,500 kilometers of territory, around 1,000 miles of coast from Broome and then Port Hedland. You've got Karratha, and you've mentioned Kalbarri, where the cyclone made landfall and it's pretty much made a massive damage to Kalbarri, and has then gone down to Geraldton, which is only a few hundred kilometers north of Perth, which is 3,000 kilometers away from me.
So
now we're getting a question. So someone says large desert between you two. Yes, in this
all of WA is a desert.
Well, yes. If you look at WA, there's a bit of green around Perth and up to Geraldton and around the south of WA. The southwest of WA is fairly green.
Yeah.
But then as you go north of Geraldton, the desert meets the sea. So the desert goes all the way into the center of Australia, but from somewhere north of Geraldton, pretty much all the way until Broome is a bit green. But pretty much it's all just desert up against the sea for 1,000 or something kilometers.
There's not much green in WA. Australia is considered the most arid country in the world. So to give you an idea, in Perth, I think our average rainfall is about 700 mils. When you get down to like Walpole, Albany, Denmark, which is down south, then rainfall is about 1,200 a year. So it's a massive, absolutely gorgeous place. But it's desert. We don't get a lot of rain, and we pretty much, if it's add all the wet days together, especially in the northern parts of WA, we only get like a month's worth of rain each year. So we get all that rain really, really quick. If you went for a drive through Kalbarri, Geraldton, and the back end at the moment, it would be absolutely stunning, because literally the day after a cyclone, the desert just explodes in a field of color. Like there's a whole heap of these seeds laying dormant in the ground, and they wait for a big storm, and then they bloom for about a day or two, and then they all die again. And they literally they grow, flower, drop their seeds, and then die all within a couple of days, and it's absolutely stunningly beautiful for those couple of days. But and
the colors are fantastic. If you ever get a chance to visit Western Australia and see the Western Australian wildflowers, we have a lot of them. That's even worse. But if you see the wildflowers, they're absolutely beautiful, but they're very rare. So like Travis said, they'll bloom and for a couple of days, oh wow, look at that, take your photos, and then they all die again because it dries out. It's very sandy. And the seeds will sit in the ground for a year, 2 years, 5 years, however long it takes for it to rain enough again for them to all bloom for a day or two.
Another, if you love your like nature sort of things, a very, very interesting animal to look up. And I found this fascinating. There's a little lizard in WA called the thorny devil. It doesn't actually drink with its mouth. What it does, it stands in puddles, and the way that all the spikes on its skin is done, it sucks the water up through its skin into its mouth, and it drinks that way. So really fascinating animals. The way animals have adapted to survive in WA is phenomenal. So sorry, I geek out a little bit with animals and things like that, especially in the desert.
Or I'd say the way God created them, and they were created to have that
to survive in the desert. So no, it's absolutely phenomenal. So go have a look at whether it's evolution or God's planned it. I think God planned for evolution to happen that way. So, it's all linked. And the awesome thing is the way they survive is absolutely phenomenal. So it's awesome.
We can have that conversation one day. Let's move on. I've got 15 minutes before I have to go, unfortunately.
Okay. Anyway, so I just quickly want to finish up with Reece Whitby, who's the new emergency service minister. Sorry. So in up north, if there's a cyclone, you get constant warnings, updates. You're told what to do. So all you had to do is take those warnings from up north, copy and paste them, change the names of the country, the towns, and move it down south. So you got to remember, none of the houses are built for cyclones. None of the people have actually dealt with the cyclone, except the very, very elderly people. No one knew what was going on. So a lot of my family members who are, just hit the table, who are mine site workers were getting bombarded with phone calls about, hey, what do we do with this? What do we do with that? How do we tie this down? And it was just, for an emergency service minister, he should have seen this coming. He should have been aware. So I have to give Reece Whitby a failure for this one. For his first real state of emergency, he didn't do a good job.
Was his department not warning him, or how incompetent were they? Did he ignore them? Did he tell them, I don't want to hear it? I mean, they should be doing this job as well. They should be prepared.
Exactly, but unfortunately, with all businesses, if a business fails, the buck stops with the boss. And Reece Whitby is the boss in this situation, agree, and he's failed his. Well, if it was his department that had to do it, why has the department been allowed to be so lax in this? And it's arguable that if that electrocution did end up being a fatality, this could have been a fatality that could have been prevented if they had known what to do. Because generally, especially up north, once you hit red alert, people shut off their mains just because electricity is a safety hazard. So this life could have been prevented. If I hope to God that this person is alive, but if they have unfortunately passed away, could this have been a preventable fatality? And I think that's a really, really important question, especially if it is a fatality for the family of the person that has passed away. I think it's really important to find out why was there not sufficient warnings and instructions on what was going on, especially with a cyclone that only happens like once, maybe every 100 years. So, yeah, Reece had a responsibility to the Western Australian people, and I don't think he's done a very good job of it. So it'll be very interesting to see that fallout of this over the next couple of weeks.
Yep. So we've got someone asking in the chat, do we have succulents? I don't know.
Yes, we do. We've got cactuses. We've got lots of succulents.
Well, there's
aloe vera
aloe vera. So there's non-succulent. There's non-cactus succulents as well. But succulent is something that can survive in low water. A plant that can survive.
Not quite. What a succulent is, it actually stores the water within the tree. No, they store the water. A succulent, they suck up the water and they store it, so for use later on.
A boab is a succulent then.
Boab is yes. A lot of people don't realise that gum trees do the same sort of things. Yeah, gum trees do the same sort of things with their root systems. A lot of the
gum
trees.
They've
got really, really deep root systems. What a lot of people also don't know in WA is we have, how would I describe it? You know, I think it's called the Dampier River. From between Dampier and Carnarvon, there's a big river that comes through. It only flows like once every couple of years. There's actually a lot of water in it. But what happens is the river itself, the waterbed, is full of sand. So there's a heap of water in it, but it's just not on the surface. It flows underneath the ground. So a lot of the trees that run along the riverbanks, there's a lot of water there. It's just underground. So the trees get the water from there. We do have succulents. We do have cactuses. I don't think they're native cactuses like you have in America, where you got like the wild west ones. I don't know what they're called, the big tall massive ones, and like there's an owl sitting in it looking at you.
But we had cacti imported, and I can't remember where they came in, but they started taking over Australia, and they had to import a moth to destroy them. I think they were just brought in as garden ornamental plants, just like the cane toads and just like the rabbits and just like numerous other things that came in, had no natural predators, and so just took over and wiped out all of the natural population. Well, not wiped it out, but out-competed them and just destroyed a whole heap of land. So we had these cactus, and I can't remember what genus of cactus or what species of cactus it was, but we introduced the moth, and it was a Cactoblastus moth. To destroy them. We're hoping to find an enemy of the cane toad that can do the same thing for cane toads, because they're a massive pest that have reached all the way from Queensland. Just one mating pair were introduced originally, and every single cane toad in Australia, so far as I know, is descended from that one original mating pair.
And they're hard to kill. They're real hard to kill.
They've now reached the Kimberley. That's 2,000 kilometres away from North Queensland, where they were introduced. They're all the way down to Sydney, I think they've got to. somewhere around there. They're expected to continue to expand, and they could even reach Perth, according to some experts.
Oh, they will. So the taipan snake actually eats the cane toad, but the problem is we've got a massive wild cat problem, which eat the taipan snakes. So it's just all these introduced species are a massive problem.
So a lot of them can get eaten by native animals, but the cane toad has this poison gland on the back just behind its eyes. And if most animals that eat that, it will kill them. But if they learn to turn the cane toad over and eat their guts out so that they kill them without eating the poison sacs. So what they've been doing is they've been getting cane toads, mushing them up and turning them into sausages with this terrible smell in it or this terrible taste in it without the poison, so that they can train the native animals, don't eat this animal, or they start training them to flip them over. And many of the native animals in Queensland have learnt, hey, I'll die if I eat the whole animal. I just flip it over and eat the guts out of it.
So the taipan snake, it was actually resistant to the poison, so they could eat the cane toad whole. Yeah. So, but unfortunately,
but of course, taipans,
poisonous.
Yes, it's also very poisonous. Yes. So it's a bit of swings and roundabouts. We're not big fans of the taipans, but if they eat the cane toads, well, okay, we'll let them live.
The worst bit is with the taipans as well. Not many snakes will do this. If you hit the ground, generally they'll go away. But taipans, you hit the ground because they feel the vibrations. So if you start stomping your feet around a taipan snake, they'll actually come at you. So
they'll attack you.
They're a mongrel of a snake. They're worse than the tiger snake. So, but see, Americans, you should come here because everything tries to kill you here. Like literally, everything tries to kill you here. So,
and you've got to see whether you. I mean, if you survive, great. You've
got a story for the kids.
There's some evolution points for you. You deserve to live.
You know how people on their passports, they get the stamp, say, oh, yeah, you've left Australia? We need to start changing it, saying, congratulations, you survived Australia.
You survived. Well done. You survived.
So,
go home and enjoy the rest of your life. Please come back and survive again.
Yeah, so, no, it's funny. But, yeah. No,
anything else? Last 5 minutes.
Let's leave it on a positive note. So, people who have listened to me in the past, they know I love my favorite person in the government is Mark McGowan, aka Mal Gowan. I have to give him a credit for this one. So,
good, excellent.
My understanding is he was actually instrumental in actually securing host city status for Perth for the FIFA Women's World Cup coming up. So that's huge. Good. So the sports people out there who watch the FIFA, who understand, especially one of the things that they do, before they give a city proper FIFA rights, they how do I explain it? They let them do minor events first, such as the Women's World Cups and stuff like that. So to get this is one more step into actually being able to host genuine official FIFA World Cup games. So this is huge. So we'll probably end up with a upgraded stadium on this one, which will generate more jobs. Having better stadiums mean we can get more people into the events, which is just all around a good thing. Will cost a little bit of money up front, but we'll more than recoup that money back, especially with how much Australians love their sports. So whether it's football, rugby, soccer, the whole entire lot, we'll sell out. If there's a proper FIFA game on, we'll always survive.
It's interesting you mentioned soccer, because I was talking about football before and how we have 4 major codes of football: rugby league, rugby union, AFL, and soccer is on the rise. And there's a lot of dispute about which one's real football.
It's AFL all the way. It's Australian Football League. So would you call football would you call gridiron in America? No, you'd call it football. Same as if you're in the UK, would you call soccer football? Yes. So you're in Australia, Australian native.
I'm sorry, mate,
football.
But you're wrong. I come from Queensland, and rugby league is real football.
Yeah, but Queenslanders are strange. They're just weird. But I shouldn't say that, because if you have a look at the original 1901 Constitution, WA was actually excluded from it. So, yeah.
You guys aren't even committed Australians.
Yeah, we came to the party late. So,
go the Cowboys. We won our first game on the weekend. We lost the first 3 games.
You're no longer nil.
No, No, actually,
Okay.
we lost the first 4 games, and now we've won one. So we're no longer. So there's 16
Sorry,
teams in the
no longer
in the
Owen.
end. Yeah, we're no longer 0
So
and 4. 0 and
I'm
4.
long. People who don't hate me for this, but I don't care. I've been a Dockers supporter since their first game, where they got absolutely flogged by the Eagles.
Mate,
Then
if
the second
there's
game they got
anybody-
flogged, and the 20 games that they got
If
flogged.
there's anybody I support in the AFL, it's the Dockers. The Dockers need to win a grand final. And there's nobody I'd rather support in the AFL than the Dockers.
Just they need to get rid of the man buns. I'm sorry for anyone who's got a man bun out there, but no. And also, my pop used to play for South Fremantle on Swan District, so it's sort of like it's grown into the family. So big shout out to the Freo Dockers. Hope you do really, really well this season. So we're 2-2 so far this season. They had a really good win against Hawthorn on the weekend. Hawthorn's one of those legacy where the champions, 3 premierships in a row. They're always in the top 8. They're just one of those insanely good teams. Yeah. I can't stand any Victorian teams.
It's like Collingwood and Geelong.
I hate Collingwood. I don't know. I think it's Eddie Maguire. I just cannot stand Collingwood for any reason.
No. It's not just Eddie. I actually like Eddie Maguire a little bit. I just hate
can't
Collingwood.
stand him.
Collingwood.
I can't stand him.
Yeah. I don't know. There's things. Eddie's all right. I don't mind Eddie. He was a good TV host, I think. But yeah. I think part of the reason is everybody hates Collingwood. Collingwood is the team that you hate if you don't support them. They're the love-hate team. And for rugby league, it's different teams. Some people hate Brisbane. It depends. It depends on who you ask. Some people say it's Brisbane. You hate them if you don't love them. Other people say it's the Manly Sea Eagles, and I actually support this theory more than any other. And the reason is that the Manly Sea Eagles are the North Shore Toffs. They're the rich people, whereas rugby league is very much a working man's game, and almost every other team has a working man's base. Sydney Roosters don't. Sydney Roosters are also the rich team, and come from the rich area of Sydney. But every other team is working class. So West's Magpies, Western Suburbs Magpies, which have merged now with Balmain Tigers, and both are working class teams. Cronulla's a working class team. St George pretty is much as well. Parramatta definitely is. Bulldogs. I mean, nearly every other team is a working man's team, whereas the Eagles are the hated teams. And there's this famous game in rugby league between the Sea Eagles, who were the big team, and the Western Suburbs Magpies, and it was called I'll get back to you in a second. It was called the Fibros versus because Fibros, the people that lived in Fibro houses, the poor people, Fibros versus the Silvertails, meaning the posh, and it was just the whole game was a brawl. The whole game was there was more boxing than football.
Sounds like the first game was the Dockers versus the Eagles. So if people wondering why
that's
I turned
that's
around
similar.
to show the cat.
That's a similar sort of thinking. The Dockers are definitely the lower class, and the Eagles are the.
Yeah, so we've got 3 premierships. So look at it. It might be 4 now. Look at me, sort of thing. We've had this cat move into the shed. So it's not our cat. We don't know where it came from. But we had to give it a name. And because I'm not a big cat fan, I prefer dogs because a dog will save your life. A cat won't. A cat will push you off the cliff and then just watch you fall, where a dog will try and stop you. And
then the cat will eat you once you've died.
Yeah. So that's proof that the world's not flat, because cats would have pushed everything off the edge by now. Anyway, so this cat just lingers. It just doesn't go away. So we've dubbed it Corona. So
Corona,
because it just won't go away. Like, it's always there. It always rears its ugly head once you think you finally got rid of it, and then all of a sudden the cat's back, and it's like, Corona's back. So but he's a cool.
You'll have to create a little crown for it. That's what Corona means, don't you? Crown.
I found out the human body has a corona, but I'm not going to say where it is because I don't want to get you demonetized.
Right. So passing final thoughts. We've got something special coming up next week, don't we, Travis? Or maybe not next week, but the week after. So we're not sure exactly. But next show, we have something special. But we're not going to tell people what it is. Be watching for the next chat with Travis. We have something very special for all of my followers. And for Travis's followers as well.
Caught it. Sorry, you guys will laugh when you see how I've got my phone set up. It's just sitting on a milk crate on the table out on the patio. Yeah. But what happened is my coffee is directly underneath the phone, so I caught it before it landed in the coffee. So I really do need to get a proper camera and all that sort of stuff.
Next week they might get to see that. Hey Travis, maybe we can show them next week.
So but I have to say, I've got a wicked couch. There's heaps of, it's a full 7-seater couch on my back patio. So
let's not give away too many clues.
Definitely not. So I think they can guess what's going on. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. I'll have to have a bit of a clean up. So and then you'll get to see Ben, the awesome, terrifying Chihuahua that doesn't bark, and the coronavirus cat who just won't go away.
Yeah. No worries.
I'll give you a heads up. There's a good chance the kids are going to gate crash next week's show. So because they don't go back to school, I don't think, till the week after that one. So it'll be good. It'll be entertaining. So
I'm not sure what time the show will be next week, but if people are subscribed to the channel, it will let you know, and you can set up a wait for it, and keep an eye out for that. I might be offline a fair bit over the next week. My next chat with Travis might be the next time that I get online, for reasons that I'm not going to make public, but will become clear when I'm with Travis next week. Thanks for joining us, Travis. Thanks for all those that are listening. Yep.
Not a problem. And we definitely look forward to having a chat either next week or whenever we see you next.
Hopefully sometime next week.
This cat, to give you guys an idea how fearless it is. Where is he? There he is. He keeps climbing up next to me, so he's he's a cool cat. Don't get me wrong. It's just I prefer dogs than cats. So anyway, and he's not ours. We wormed him because he was getting really, really skinny. Gave him some worming tablets, but so
you're obviously being too nice to him. but let's not go on a cat bashing rampage.
The kids love cats, so I'll let him stay. I think it's a he. I'm not sure. So it's too young to know if it's a boy or a girl yet. So it might be a girl, actually. We'll see. The whole idea of checking the sex of a cat doesn't appeal to me. It's a cat. I'll treat it. See, I'm not one of those people that care about people's genders. Like the cat's fine. I'll treat the cat based on the cat's merit.
As far as I'm concerned, all cats are female anyway.
Yeah. You don't get yourself demonetized.
It's a bit like small dogs. Small dogs are all female too. Anyway, I better go with that parting shot.
I'm in enough trouble as it is. I won't comment on that one. I'll let you comment on that one. So anyway, ladies and gents, thanks for tuning in again. And make sure you jump over to Carter's Corner on the YouTube and Facebook and give us a like, subscribe. And for the people who want to make sure that free speech gets to continue to exist, I have created a Patreon account to assist in keeping Carter's Corner alive and ticking along and stuff like that. So Carter's Corner on patreon.com as well.
Just quickly on that one. So we haven't talked about Carter's Corner. So you've had a radio show where you're prepared to speak the truth about politics, speak the truth to power, and you've been kicked off. So you've been your
totally
show has been cancelled. Show has been cancelled. But so if people want to follow you, they want to support you, look up Carter's Corner on YouTube. And support the work that conservatives are doing, and people who love freedom are doing to fight back against fascism in our world.
So the whole premise of the show was always giving people a platform who don't normally have a platform, and we didn't filter it to anyone. We actually gave it to everyone. And if people came on the show and they just started spewing like bullshit, we would call them on it. We even had the South Sudanese Association of West Australia come on the show. We've had Greens candidates, we've had Labor, Liberals.
Yep.
We haven't had
Yep.
Labor. We've had a couple of Liberal candidates, Independents. We've had everyone on the show. We
Yep.
even did the first interview with the Nationals up in Geraldton when ABC, all their systems failed, all ours kept working. So, you know, we're really getting out there. And I think that's the reason why Channel 7 targeted us, because we were rapidly approaching about the reach of about 150,000 people. So it was
And
getting
that's-
a fair whack of people. And
Yep.
so they didn't like it. So,
Yep.
yeah.
You were
hence-
becoming a
and-
threat, so they accused you of bigotry.
Yep. And
That's always the fascist playbook.
Yep, and we pulled them up on a couple of really dodgy deals that the government was doing, which was
Yep.
benefiting Channel 7 a lot, and just
Yep.
saying, hey, does this pass the pub test? And it wasn't. So, yeah, it explains why we had 3 6 o'clock exclusives. I think it was 3. It was definitely 2, but apparently I got a 3rd as well, but I haven't seen that one yet. So, yeah, it's been fun. It's been entertaining. A lot of people said I should be more worried about this. And I'm like, why? This is hilarious. Like the amount of free advertising we're getting.
Well, that's it. Free advertising. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah, so
It's all
and
publicity.
it's-
And then
and-
let the public decide.
yeah, hopefully we'll have a home shortly. We've been in communications with a couple of different studios, and we'll see how it goes. So
Yep.
hopefully by the time we do our next show, we can give you an update on what's going on.
Yep.
So yeah,
Excellent.
definitely. So anyway, I'm going to jump off.
And the link is in the chat for those. So Raman's kindly found that for us and whacked it in the chat. If you
legend.
want to follow Travis's YouTube channel. Thanks for
Awesome.
joining us, Trav. Thanks for everyone on the chat, and catch you next week.
Will
See
do.
ya.
Cheers. Bye.